Hello chess fans, this is Rick from Chess to Impress with coverage of the second event of the 2018 Grand Chess Tour. There are 5 events. The first event was held in Leuven in Belgium, Rapid and Blitz. I made videos on that. It's number 350 and 351 on the Chess to Impress channel. This video is about the Rapid part of the Paris event. And as you can see here, there will be 2 events in the USA in St. Louis in August. Rapid and Blitz first, and then a classical event. The final of the 2018 Grand Chess Tour will be held in London in December. These are the 10 participants in Paris. They are the same as they were in Leuven a week earlier. The only difference is that Anish Giri has been replaced by Vladimir Kramnik. These are the rapid ratings of the 10 participants and their position in the world. You can see Hikaru Nakamura has the highest rapid rating of the 10 participants. He's number 2 behind Magnus Carlsen. You see Wesley So there on number 3. He won the Leuven event, and you see the other participants there with their rapid rating and also their universal rating, which is a combination of classical, rapid and blitz. In this video we're going to look at the game between Wesley So, who won the Leuven Grand Chess Tour event as said, and the home favorite Maxime Vachier-Lagrave. The game was played in round 3, the last game of the first day. White Wesley So, black the homeboy Maxime Vachier-Lagrave. He wanted to do really well in front of his home fans. Knight f3 from So. So just came off a defeat against Shahryar Mamedyarov in round 2. c5, b3, b6, bishop b2, bishop b7, c4, knight f6, g3. So is going to fianchetto both his bishops, and so is Vachier-Lagrave. And now you and I would play bishop g2 or maybe develop the knight to c3, but Wesley So takes on f6. What is that? Giving up the bishop pair. Well, he does this because he wants to take control of the d5 square, and the knight on f6 was protecting that square. That's the idea of bishop takes f6. E takes f6, and now knight c3 to stop black solving a problem with d5. But it gives black the chance to do the same to white as white just did to him. If Wesley So had played bishop g2 instead, then black can play d5 and make sure that the d-pawn is not becoming a backward pawn. After knight c3, the move played in the game, then it's not good to play d5 because there is knight takes, bishop takes, c takes, queen takes, and bishop g2, and this is somewhat uncomfortable for black. He has to play knight c6 to avoid trouble on that long diagonal. White castled and is slightly better. So after knight c3, d5 cannot be played, but as said, Vachier-Lagrave did to So what So just did to him. He took on f3. E takes, knight c6, bishop g2 and bishop g7. Perfect symmetry. And Grandmaster Sararan said in a live broadcast, unless white makes headway very quickly, this is going to be a dead draw. Let's see what happens. Queen e2, check. King stepped aside. White castled. It looks like black has made a small concession, losing his castling rights, but he's going to solve that problem very quickly. He plays f5. He's going to make room for his king so that the rook on h8 can get into the game. f4, bishop f6, making room for that king. Rook ae1, king g7, and now the rook on h8 is free to play. Queen d3, rook c8, taking the knight out of the pin, so that now the knight can jump. And rook e3 was played. In the live broadcast they looked at knight d5 instead, and then bishop d4, and Grandmaster Sararan said, you can take a picture of this position. You have a beautiful knight on d5, but it doesn't do a lot more than being beautiful. this is indeed a great piece, but you need a plan to follow up, and there is no real plan. Black has enough counterplay, and this position is equal. Rook e3 was played, and now Vašeľák Graf played knight d4, while Grandmaster Ramirez in the live broadcast said bishop d4 seemed more logical to him, kicking out the rook, kicking away the rook, and then move that rook to e8 and to e6 was his idea. Looks very good, looks totally equal. But knight d4 was played by Vašeľák Graf, and now knight b5 from Wesley So. In the live broadcast, the Grandmasters didn't understand why Vašeľák Graf did not take on b5, c takes b5, and then d5, followed by rook c7 and to d7, as was analyzed in the live broadcast. Also equal. But after knight b5, Vašeľák Graf kicked that knight with a6. So took on d4, bishop takes, hitting the rook, rook step back, rook e8, bringing that rook into the game finally, rook fe1, and a pair of rooks was swapped. And the opinion of the Grandmasters on this position that it's completely equal still, with opposite colored bishops in the position. And Grandmaster Saruhan said with some irony, this will be a hard-fought draw. But let's see what happens. d6 from Vašeľák Graf, and queen e7, infiltrating with his queen in black's position. Bishop f6, hitting that queen, and the queen went to b7. Looks to get a bit more complicated, hitting the a6 pawn. a5 from Vašeľák Graf. He is happy to give Wesley So all the light squares. He has all the dark squares in return. Still not much happening in this position. Bishop d5, beautiful square for the bishop. And now Wesley So had anticipated queen c7. And after the queen trade, rook e8, rook e7, we still have a completely equal position. But after bishop d5, queen c7 was not played. Vašeľák Graf played rook c7, and now it gets very interesting. This pawn is now unprotected, and Wesley So first thought I might have to play queen a8 here to make a draw. Queen takes, bishop takes, and the position is equal. But then he started to calculate and saw that after rook c7 he can in fact take that pawn. He can take on b6. And I have a screenshot for you from the live broadcast about this moment. Wesley So's hand hovering over the b6 pawn just before he takes it. And he took it. And Vašeľák Graf thought he had a trick. And the trick was rook e7. But the trickster is going to get tricked, as Grandmaster Saruhan called it. And Wesley So said that he was very surprised that Vašeľák Graf played this move, because the trick is just obvious, he said. Well, what is the trick? You cannot take the queen. That's not good for white, because then there is a very nice move. Rook takes e1, and that's check, and a discovered attack on the queen. After king g2, bishop takes d8, the smoke screens are cleared, and black is a rook up. Black is winning. So you cannot take the queen. But Wesley So saw that he can take on e7. Because if then black takes white's queen, there is rook takes f7 check, as played in the game. King h8, and you can take that bishop. In fact, Wesley So first gave a check, repeated the moves, king g7, rook f7 check. He was asked by Grandmaster Ashley after the game why he made this move repetition, because the players are playing with a delay, not an increment. And normally you get some extra time on the clock by repeating the moves, but not if the game is played with delay instead of increment. Wesley So joked that he was hoping to get the prize for the player who makes most moves, a prize that does not exist. King h8, and now he took the bishop. White has won a rook, a bishop and 2 pawns for the queen. That's a good deal material-wise. And another important factor is that the white king is safe on g1. And also, it's comforting to know that he will always have a perpetual against black's king if he needs it. So white had a good deal here. Queen b4, it's remarkable how powerless the queen is in this position. So took on d6, Vachier-Lagrave took on d2, and rook c6, attacking the c5 pawn. And if that pawn goes, the white c pawn will be a very strong asset. If you take on a2, then white takes on c5, queen takes b3, and rook takes e5, and this pawn will decide the game. This is a winning position for white. So after rook c6, Vachier-Lagrave did not take on a2, he played queen d4. King g2, white is not in a hurry. King g7, rook c7 check. You cannot go to f8 because then you're going to lose the h7 pawn. So the king went back where he came from, king h8. h4, and black is going to be put in zugzwang. He played h5. If you play h6, it doesn't really make a difference. a4 will come, then you can play h5, but rook b7 is a good move. And if you then play queen c3, rook b5, attacking both pawns, and whatever happens, white will come up with a passed pawn and will win the game. In the game after h4, Vachier-Lagrave played h5, and Wesley So played a4, and that was the last move of the game. He was asked afterwards, have you ever had this before, playing a2, a4 with a complete zugzwang? And Wesley So said, it's super sweet playing a4 like this. Super sweet. Here, Vachier-Lagrave resigned. Why did he resign? Well, his queen cannot keep protecting the c5 pawn. The king has no squares, and the queen doesn't have a square where she can keep protecting that pawn. That pawn will go, and then the c pawn will eventually go through. You have one more trick in the position, but it doesn't work. You can try to play for stalemate. Queen takes f2, king takes f2 would be stalemate if it was not for the g pawn, and it's not so easy to get rid of that pawn. You can try g5, but white just takes it, and then you can try h4, and if you now take on h4, then queen takes f2, check, king takes f2 is stalemate, that's a draw, but after h4, white does not take that pawn. He plays g6, and this is a checkmate threat, and it's a forced checkmate, white wins. So after a2, a4, Maxime Vachier-Lagrave resigned, and a game that looked very dull from the start sprung to life with that rook c7, e7 maneuver from Vachier-Lagrave, which was a blunder. And as said, Wesley So was very surprised to see it and played the endgame very convincingly. And at the end of 9 rounds, it was Wesley So who won the rapid section in Paris with 12 points, 4 wins, 4 draws and only 1 loss against Mamedyarov in round 2. 2 players were undefeated, Nakamura and Karyakin, and they're only a point behind Wesley So in advance of the blitz section. Levon Aronian did very well but lost his last 2 games. He only made 1 point, 1 draw on the last day, and you can see the remaining players there. After 3 days of rapid, we'll have 2 days of blitz, the blitzkrieg as the St. Louis Chess Club calls it. Rounds 1 to 9 will be held on Saturday, June 23rd, and the last 9 rounds will be played on Sunday, June 24th. 5 minutes per player per game plus a 3-second delay. A win will give 1 point, a draw half a point. For the rapid section, there were double points on offer. Hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please give it a thumbs up and please subscribe to the Chess to Impress channel. Please leave a comment, I will read them all and I will reply to them all. I will put links here of the 2 videos I did on the Leuven Rapid and Leuven Blitz event only a week ago. You also may want to check out my Chess to Progress channel. The link is in the description box. This is Rick for Chess to Impress. Thank you for watching.